and that we partially corrected the finding. The response that I have drafted is the report substantially cites a presentment from the local grand jury impaneled by the district state attorney and acknowledges that the IDA drafted and approved responses to the presentment. While we intend no disrespect to the grand jury process, it must be noted and understood that a presentment is not a finding of fact. None of the witnesses have been subject to cross-examination, nor have any of the conclusions been tested in a court of law. Nonetheless, as reflected in the IDA board minutes, the board responded positively by discussing options to add co-counsel, implement an annual evaluation process, and has also discussed improving grant monitoring processes and implemented improvements in the monitoring of EDA grants. As to the validity of including the presentment and citing this in the re-audit, GAO 12-331G, Section 6, those are the government auditing standards that most agencies follow in having their audits of their government entities. This document outlines several areas that, and this is where in red I have put in the chair's opinion, make inclusion of this evidence in an audit immaterial unless the auditors reviewed and substantiated the information and claims presented therein or the credentials of those creating and evaluating the evidence.
What does that mean?
Basically, that means in that outline, those government auditing standards, there are certain standards that you have to, if you are going to use the work of another entity, that you either have to provide credentials for that entity to substantiate their criticisms, that you have to review, basically review the information that they have reviewed to understand the validity of information that they reviewed. So basically, with the whole process of a grand jury being closed door proceedings, the Auditor General's office, and again, this is where I'm saying, in my opinion, reviewing the auditing guidelines and standards, they would not have had the opportunity or ability to review and evaluate those things for themselves. So in my opinion, including that in this report where we are being re-audited does not meet the standards of qualifying as a legitimate opinion if they did not review that information. And since they were closed door proceedings and it's a closed case, they would not have had the opportunity or ability to do that. So basically that's what I'm stating in that paragraph.
Okay, so what you're, okay, I'm a little confused, I guess. So are we saying that what we did may be wrong, but because the grand jury didn't have any two-way conversation, we're not going to worry about it, or we're not going to admit that we were wrong? Or?
No, we're simply stating, a lot of the points that they point out may already be referenced in using the CPA audit, and the CPA audit would similarly go by certain government accounting standards. The presentment does not follow any government accounting standards and is looking for something completely different than you would look for in an audit. So we're not saying that we did anything wrong. We're not saying that any recommendations that came out of the presentment are valid or not valid. We're saying that the inclusion of this information, if they have not reviewed it, is not appropriate. That's what we're challenged with.
Okay, so we or you are saying that we're not going to agree with the presentment.
No, we're saying that we don't agree with the use of the presentment in this re-audit, citing the presentment in this re-audit, because we, after reviewing all of those opinions and reviewing the government auditing standards, I didn't feel like it met the criteria to be included in the audit of a public entity. So just a note, if we continue to have speaking out from the audience, I will ask that you be removed. It's very distracting from the conversation that's occurring up here. And again, we would like the opportunity to really give our full attention to discuss this. So please minimize any comments coming from the audience. Thank you. Don, if you'll let me go ahead and
Okay, I'm sorry.
review that section, and then we can come back and, continue discussion on that. The state attorney's office published information that was not released to the public